Okay, so I have a little pop quiz for you. Just a mental exercise.
Okay, I'm ready.
I want you to picture a movie director, but not just anyone, someone iconic, someone whose style is so distinct that if you saw like 30 seconds of their movie, you'd go, oh, I know exactly who made this.
You mean the kind of director whose name basically becomes an adjective?
Yeah.
Like Hitchcockian or Spielbergian.
Exactly. The heavy hitters, the ones who really changed how movies look and feel.
Right.
Now, here's the assumption we all make, and I am definitely guilty of this.
Mm-hmm.
We assume that if a director has reached that level of fame, if they've defined a genre or made a masterpiece, they must have at least one Oscar nomination for Best Director.
It just feels like a safe bet. It seems like the baseline, you know? You change the industry gives you a nod.
Right. But here's where it gets really interesting and honestly a little bit shocking. That assumption, it's completely wrong.
In way more cases than you probably expect.
We are diving into a source today titled 10 Incredible Directors Never Nominated for an Oscar, and my jaw just hit the floor reading this list. We're not talking about obscure underground artists here.
Not at all.
We're talking about 8 filmmakers whose fingerprints are all over modern cinema. They've been copied, studied, remixed, and yet 0 nominations for directing.
It's a fascinating blind spot. And our mission for this deep dive isn't just to read off a list of names and get angry, though. Fair warning, you might get a little frustrated on their behalf.
I'm already there.
We want to explore who these directors are, why their work is so fundamental, and maybe try to figure out why. Why did the Academy just look the other way?
I'm still reeling from some of these. I mean, these are people who didn't just make movies, they built our collective imagination.
Well, let's start with the absolute titans, the ones the source calls the genre definers.
Yes, the
Yeah.
ones who took a genre and basically made it their own. And you can't talk about that without talking about the Western, and you can't talk about the Western without Sergio Leone.
It's impossible. He is the spaghetti Western.
When I think of Leone, I immediately hear that whistle. I see the poncho, I see the dust.
And the stare down. Don't forget the stare down.
Stare down. But that's the thing. Leone didn't just film cowboys shooting at each other. He changed the whole rhythm of the movie, didn't he?
He completely rewired it. The source highlights the specific approach he had to patience. If you look at Westerns before him, they were often really theatrical, very dialogue heavy, or just quick action. Leone went the other way. He slowed everything down.
He wasn't in a rush to get to the bang-bang.
No, because he understood that the threat of violence is actually more cinematic than the violence itself. He would just stretch a moment out until it was almost unbearable.
And the way he shot it, too. The source mentions his signature extreme close-ups.
Right. So in this era of widescreen cinema, where everyone was trying to show these huge landscapes, Leone would fill that entire massive screen with just a pair of eyes.
Wow.
Or a hand just hovering over a holster. He made the landscape of the human face feel just as epic as the desert.
That is such a cool way to put it. And obviously, we have to mention The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Of course.
That movie is legendary. It's on every list of greatest films ever made.
It is.
Yeah.
And along with his earlier films, it completely changed the morality of the genre. Before Leone, you usually had the white hat versus the black hat. Good guy, bad guy.
It's a super clear cut.
Yeah. Leone brought in the grit, the sweat, the gray areas.
Yeah.
He made the West feel dirty and dangerous and morally ambiguous.
Yet, the Academy watched all that happen, saw the industry change around him, and gave him 0 directing nominations.
0. During his prime, he was completely shut out.
That's wild. I know the source says he eventually got something, but it feels more like a sorry we missed you note.
He received an honorary Oscar in 2003.
2003.
Exactly. Decades after his most influential work. It's the classic Academy move.
Yeah.
They ignore the revolution while it's happening because it looks lowbrow or too violent. And then 30 years later, once it's safely in the history books, they say, oh, right, good job.
Sorry we missed you. Here's a statue. Well, speaking of genres the Academy seems to think are lowbrow, let's talk about horror and sci-fi. Because this next snub, this one hurts me personally.
You must be talking about John Carpenter.
I am talking about John Carpenter. The man gave us Halloween. He gave us The Thing. These aren't just movies, they're foundational texts.
They are. But Carpenter's lack of recognition really points to a specific systemic bias in the awards world. The Academy has historically viewed horror and sci-fi as technical exercise.
Oh, right.
They see the special effects or the makeup, but they don't really see the directing.
Which is so ironic because the source points out that Carpenter's genius wasn't about the effects, at least not entirely. It was about atmosphere.
Precisely. Carpenter favored atmosphere over explanation. He trusted the audience.
He didn't feel the need to hold your hand.
No. Think about the thing. He doesn't give you a 20-minute presentation on the biology of the alien. He just traps you in a room with a bunch of paranoid men and lets the dread build. He creates this suffocating, cold atmosphere where you don't know who to trust. That is pure direction.
It's masterful, and there's a detail in the source that I think makes this snub even more egregious. Carpenter is a total auteur. He wasn't just pointing the camera.
You mean the music?
The music. I actually didn't realize the extent of this until we looked into it.
It's one of the most impressive things about him. He often wrote the scripts, directed the film, and composed the score. That iconic Halloween theme, the ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
That is John Carpenter on a synthesizer.
So you have a guy who is writing the story, visualizing the story, and then creating the sonic landscape that tells you how to feel about the story. That's a massive creative footprint.
It is. But because his movies involved guys in masks or aliens in the snow, the serious voters just labeled it as popcorn entertainment. They missed the craft because they were looking down on the genre.
It's a huge oversight. But okay, if we think the Academy has a hard time with horror because it's scary, they seem to have an even harder time with directors who actively try to make the audience feel, well, gross.
The masters of discomfort.
Yes. Let's talk about David Cronenberg.
Now, Cronenberg is fascinating because he didn't just work in a genre. He arguably invented a subgenre.
Body horror.
Exactly. And for the uninitiated, that doesn't just mean gore. It's more philosophical than that. Cronenberg understands the intersection of technology and the human body better than almost anyone. But his way of exploring it is visceral.
Visceral is a very polite way of saying stomach churning.
It can be, but it's intelligent grossness.
Yeah.
His movies like The Fly or Videodrome are meant to make you uncomfortable. That's the whole point. He wants you to feel the fragility of the flesh. He wants you to question what it means to be human when the body starts to change or merge with machines.
And he's been doing this for a long time.
5 decades. And he's still at it. The source mentions his recent film, The Shrouds. He is not mellowed with age. He's still pushing those same buttons.
But I guess that's the problem, right? The Oscars generally like movies that make us feel good, or at least movies that affirm our humanity. Cronenberg looks at humanity and says, look at how weird and wet and messy we are.
That's it. Cronenberg's work sits so far outside the Academy's traditional comfort zone. They don't know how to reward a film that's designed to repulse you, even if the craftsmanship is undeniably brilliant. It's hard to vote for a movie that made you want to skip lunch.
That's a fair point. But not all uncomfortable directors deal in body horror. Some do it with extreme elegance. We have to talk about Park Chan-wook.
The South Korean master.
The source describes his work as elegant on the surface, uncomfortable underneath, which I think is the perfect description.
It's such a tricky balance to pull off. If you pause a Park Chan-wook film, it looks like a painting. The cinematography is gorgeous. The wallpaper, the costumes, the framing, it is high art.
And then you press play.
And then someone gets hit with a hammer. Or a terrible, terrible secret is revealed.
I mean, Old Boy. We have to mention Old Boy.
Old Boy is the starting point for most people. It's shocking. It's operatic. But it is also deeply disturbing. And that's his signature. He takes these taboo subjects, revenge, violence, twisted relationships, and he packages them in the most beautiful wrapping paper you can imagine.
And he's incredibly consistent. He's doing TV now, too, right? The Synthesizer came out recently?
Yes, in 2024. He has incredible range. But here's the specific sting for him. The source points out a very recent snub. His film, No Other Choice.
Oh, right. That was shut out completely.
Completely. And that was widely considered one of the best directed films that year. It just shows that even with the Academy trying to be more international, I mean, to think of Parasite winning, there is still a hesitation with Park's specific brand of elegant darkness.
It's like they can appreciate the craft, but the content just pushes them away. They see the beauty, but they just can't get past the twist.
It seems so.
Okay, so we've got the genre guys and the discomfort guys, but what about the directors who make things that are just undeniably beautiful, the ones who are all about style and emotion?
The stylists and the architects.
Yeah.
And this brings us to a name that I think is just a tragedy to be missing from the Oscar rolls. Wong Kar-wai.
Oh, absolutely. If you want to talk about vibes, and I use that word with total respect, Wong Kar-wai is the king.
He is. The source puts it beautifully. He values lingering feelings over strict plot points.
Lingering feelings. I love that.
He isn't interested in getting from point A to point B in the most efficient way. He's interested in how point A felt. He's interested in the smoke swirling in the air, the way a dress moves, the color of the streetlights.
And his method is pretty unique too, right? He's big on improvisation.
Totally. Yes,
Sure.
heavily. He's famous for working without a finished script. He lets the chemistry of the actors and the mood of the set guide the movie. It's incredibly risky. Most directors would just crash and burn trying to do that.
But when she does it, it's magic.
Magic.
We have to mention In Mood for Love.
A masterpiece.
The music, the slow motion, the colors, just the way the camera moves, it's hypnotic. You don't just watch that movie, you sort of live inside it for 2 hours.
It's captivating, and that's why the source calls the lack of a nomination a huge mistake. Because directing isn't just about managing a schedule or getting lines right. It's about creating a world. Wong Kar-wai creates a world of color and longing that's unlike anyone else's. To ignore that is to ignore a fundamental expression of cinema.
It really feels like a huge miss. Now, shifting gears slightly to someone the source calls an architect of the new Hollywood era, Brian De Palma.
This one is baffling for different reasons. With Wong Kar-wai, you could maybe argue, oh, he's too international or too art house for the old guard. But Brian De Palma, he is Hollywood.
Right. He made Scarface, The Untouchables.
Carrie, blowout. He's an expert in multiple genres: horror, thriller, gangster films. He was running right alongside Spielberg, Lucas, Scorsese in that new Hollywood pack in the 70s and 80s.
And his movies are iconic. Everyone knows Say Hello to My Little Friend. That is etched into the culture.
Exactly. And here's the thing that really stings, and the source makes a point of this. Actors in his films have won Oscars. Sean Connery won for The Untouchables. Sissy Spacek was nominated for Carrie.
So wait a minute. The Academy watched the movie. They loved the acting enough to give it a trophy, but they ignored the guy directing the actors.
Precisely. It implies they thought the movie succeeded despite him, or that they just didn't respect his style. De Palma was very flashy. He loved split screens, long tracking shots, very Hitchcockian suspense.
Maybe they thought he was just copying Hitchcock.
There was definitely a criticism back then that he was just a stylist or a pastiche artist. But looking back now, he built the visual language of the modern American thriller.
And unlike Leone,
No honorary Oscar.
nothing.
Nothing. The source calls it a major disservice, and I have to agree. You can't tell the story of American film in the 80s without Brian De Palma, and yet the Academy just acts like he wasn't there.
That is cold.
It is very cold.
Okay, so we've covered the overlooked icons, but now I want to get into the deep end. The directors who aren't just making movies, they're challenging the format of cinema itself.
The challengers of time and form.
We're talking about Béla Tarr. Now, I have to admit, until I read this deep dive, I didn't know much about him. But the description of his work, wow, it sounds intense.
Béla Tarr is not for the casual Friday night popcorn viewer.
The source says his movies require time and patience.
That is an understatement. He's the absolute antithesis of the modern blockbuster. We're talking about slow cinema in its purest form.
Let's drop the example from the source, Satan Tango.
Yes, the legendary Satan Tango.
7 hours.
Ugh.
Long.
7 hours.
I mean, I can binge a TV show for 7 hours, sure.
Yeah.
But a single narrative film, why would he do that? Is he just trying to torture us?
It's not a gimmick, and it's not torture, though it is demanding. The source explains that the length is the point. It allows the viewer to feel the weight of repetition and despair.
So you actually have to live through the boredom and the struggle with the characters?
Exactly. If a character is walking down a muddy road in the rain for 10 minutes, Tarr shows you the walk for 10 minutes. He doesn't cut to the destination.
10-minute takes.
Often longer. And usually in this stark black and white, it forces you to slow your brain down. You stop expecting the next plot point, and you just exist in his world. It's an immersive, almost meditative experience.
I can see the artistic value in that, but I can also see why the Academy voters, who probably have a stack of 50 screeners to watch in a month, might look at a 7-hour black and white Hungarian film and say, you know what, maybe I'll skip this one.
It's a massive barrier to entry, certainly. It requires work. But if we're judging Best Director based on uncompromising artistic vision and complete control over the medium, Béla Tarr is a giant.
It's a shame that best so often just means most digestible.
Well put.
And finally, we have another director who challenges the audience, but in a different way. Claire Denis.
One of the most influential directors still working today.
The source mentions she's often seen as too experimental for the Academy.
Which is their loss, truly. Because her work stays with you like a fever dream. She doesn't always follow a linear narrative. She isn't interested in A leads to B leads to C.
What is she interested in then?
Sensations. Bodies in Space. Rhythm. The source points to Beau Travail from 1999.
I've heard of that one. It's supposed to be incredible.
It is widely regarded as one of the best films of the 90s. The ending alone is legendary. But it's not a film about dialogue. It's a film about repressed emotion and physicality. It's about the tension between men in the desert.
And she's still making hits. She's incredibly prolific.
She is. She recently did High Life, which is a sci-fi film with Robert Pattinson, but done in her own strange style. Let the sun shine in, both sides of the blade. She has incredible versatility.
35 Shots of Rum is another one mentioned in the source.
A beautiful film. But again, her storytelling is elliptical. She leaves gaps. She asks the audience to fill in the blanks. And historically, the Academy prefers to be spoon-fed a narrative. They like to know exactly who's good, who's bad, and what the moral of the story is. Claire Denis doesn't give you that easy satisfaction.
She treats the audience like adults.
And sometimes, the award season prefers a fairy tale.
So what does this all mean? We've looked at Leone, Carpenter, Cronenberg, Park, Wong, De Palma, Tar, Dennis. These are not minor figures. These are legends.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really reveals a pattern, a blind spot.
So what's the common thread here?
The Academy often misses three types of directors. The innovators who define low genres, like horror or westerns.
Right.
The provocateurs who make us feel physically uncomfortable, and the experimentalists who challenge the very form and length of cinema.
It seems like if you color too far outside the lines, you don't get the trophy.
Exactly. Innovation is often punished in the short term and rewarded in the long term. The Academy is usually playing catch-up.
But here's the takeaway for you listening. Awards are just one metric. And honestly, they're a political metric, a popularity contest within a very specific industry.
Right.
The fact that these directors have been studied, copied, and remixed, that is a far greater legacy.
Absolutely. Halloween is still being ripped off today. The good, the bad, and the ugly is still the template for cool. And the mood for love is still the visual reference for longing. That matters more than a statue on a shelf.
It's true, the influence outlives the ceremony.
Always.
So here's a thought to leave you with today. We call the award Best Director. But looking at this list, is it really? Or is the category actually just Best Director of a very specific type of drama that makes us feel good?
That is the question.
Does the award represent the best of film or just the best of the Academy's comfort zone? Something to think about next time you're watching a horror movie or a 7-hour masterpiece.
Indeed.
Thanks for diving deep with us into the cinema history books. We'll catch you on the next one.